Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 195 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show is the creator of Cucumber and co-founder of Cucumber Limited. He is a co-author of the Cucumber book and was an early adopter of extreme programming and business-driven development. He has worked as a programmer, software architect, business owner and trainer in a variety of industries, including finance, telecom and retail. So welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast, Aslak Hellesoy.
Hello, thanks for having me, Phil.
No, you're welcome. And I'd like to maybe begin by asking you a little bit about your involvement with Cucumber and how that all started.
We have to rewind back to 2003 when I had just joined a consulting company called ThoughtWorks in London, where this was a very exciting time at ThoughtWorks. There was a lot of very innovative and very bright people working there that I became to know, and I learned an awful lot from these people, and also from people who were sort of part of that community, who went to the Extreme Tuesday Club, which is a weekly gathering at a pub. And one of the things that I got interested in very quickly was test-driven development, where you write the tests first and then you let that guide your design and your implementation. And one of my colleagues, Dan North, he had been teaching this to, trying to teach test-driven development to developers, and found that it was really hard to teach. So he thought about this a lot, and he came to the conclusion that the reason why people don't quite get TDD is because of the word test, because it really isn't about testing. It's about design and discovery and so on. So he came up with a twist on test-driven development that he coined behavior-driven development. And then he worked with Chris Matz and Liz Keogh and Chris Stevenson and a bunch of other people. And I was also part of this group. So Chris Matz they came up with this given when then way of expressing acceptance tests that you were supposed to write before the implementation. And the idea was to try and involve the non-technical stakeholders in the formulation of those acceptance tests using natural language. So this is back in 2003. And Dan wrote the first implementation of a tool that supported this twist on TDD called JBehave. And then there was a bunch of other tools that were at a very experimental stage. And I was part of an open source community a few years later where this experimentation was still going on. This other tool is called RSpec, which is really a unit testing tool. It's like JUnit for Ruby, where this experimentation continued. I worked with David Shalimsky, who was running that project, who came up with this given when then implementation in Ruby, and it didn't feel quite right. So I've been playing around with 3-4 of these experimental implementations of it, and I decided to create my own, taking all of the good bits from all of the experimental versions and adding some new things to it. And one day I was with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. We were sitting on a bus, and I had some code that I'd written, and I just needed to give it a name because I wanted to open source it. And so I asked her, I'm writing this tool, I need a name for it. What should I call it? And she looked up from a book and said, I think you should call it Cucumber. Which was just a random word that popped into her mind, I guess. And I named it that, and I was going to rename it later, but I couldn't come up with a better name. So that's how it stuck.
Indeed.
Yeah, so this was in 2008. So 5 years after I sort of initially got exposed to this BDD movement. So it took 5 years of experimentation and for the community's thoughts to mature before Cucumber was born. So I didn't really invent much of this stuff. I just took the good ideas that other people had and implemented them a little bit better, because it must have struck a chord. The Rails community, which was quite new at that time, just took it and ran with it, and that's how it became very popular.
Yeah. So when you got to 2013, you started Cucumber as a company?
Yeah, that's right. When I created Cucumber in 2008, there was a bunch of people who joined the open source community and helped improve it. There must have been dozens of people who contributed code, and during the first 5 years, I worked for other companies. This was I left ThoughtWorks by that time, but in 2013, I worked for a trading company. I didn't really like that domain. Finance was never really my thing. So in the evening, I was toying with Cucumber, and it had grown quite big by then. And Matt Wynn and Julian Biesmans, who were the most prolific contributors to Cucumber at that time, we got together and decided to form a company, because we thought that because of the mind share that the tool had now, we could figure out a way to make money off of it while keeping it open source.
Right. And obviously more recently, and very recently indeed, you have news about the future of Cucumber.
So when we started Cucumber in 2013, we didn't take any VC money. We wanted to keep control over the company to ourselves, and we grew organically over the next 5 years to 10 employees. And what we had as our main revenue was training. We went around the world, primarily in Europe and the United States, and trained a lot of people, hundreds, probably thousands of people in various organizations. And while we were doing this, this was kind of detracting from the original strategy of the company, which was to build a commercial tool on top of Cucumber that we could sell as a SaaS. And because we were small and because we didn't have funding, it was quite difficult to get to the productivity level that we wanted to. So we were approached we had been approached by several investors that we had turned down, but then we were approached by SmartBear, which is a company based in Boston that has a number of test-related tools in their portfolio. And yeah, we talked to them for about 6 months. It was an extended dating period
Right.
before we realized that this is a really, really good match. We have aligned strategies. They've got an amazing sales and marketing and IT organization that could help us realize what we've always wanted to do, but just didn't have the capacity to. So SmartBear acquired Cucumber in June 2019, about a month ago as we speak. So that's very, very exciting for us.
Indeed. Yeah. Okay. So, Aslak, can you perhaps share with us a career tip, maybe one that the audience doesn't know and should?
I can only share what's worked particularly well for me. I built my career on open source. I became an early contributor to open source back in, I think it was around 2000, when open source was a word that very few people knew about. And the great thing about open source is that, well, at least if you like programming, you get to play with exactly what you want, not just what your employer tells you to do. And it's a great way to learn new technologies. It's a great way to learn from others who, whether you are joining an existing open source community or you create your own. So it's just a great way to expand your network, learn new things, and have fun at the same time. I guess I've been quite lucky in meeting the right people and managing to use the insight I got from them to build tools that a lot of people find useful. But even if you don't, even if nobody ends up using your open source tool, it's still a really good way to study and learn and evolve as a programmer.
Sure. And you obviously met a lot of people by doing that as well, made a lot of contacts.
Yes, and I guess also what I should mention is go and speak at conferences. So when I was brand new at this stuff, I was encouraged by some of my colleagues that, hey, you should, I think what you've created here is quite interesting. You should go and tell people about it. So I submitted some proposals for conferences, and that was really intimidating in the beginning, right? Because you're standing there in an auditorium and you're speaking after some celebrity, and you're just scared of making a fool of yourself. And I made a pretty bad fool of myself on many occasions. But every time I've grown as a person and as a speaker, and that's also something that's, people come up to you and they say, chill out. That wasn't as bad as you thought.
Exactly. So I think one thing to remember about that, of course, is the people you think of as celebrities and experts, they were once in the same position as you. They'd never stood in front of an audience and given a speach, and they probably felt in exactly the same mindset when they finished.
Yeah, and now that I've been doing this for 20 years, I know a few of the big celebrities that sell hundreds of thousands of books and so on, and they've told me that they've been doing this for 30 odd years now, and they still get nervous when they go on stage. And I guess if you ask any musician as well who's does this as a career, professional career, it's normal to be nervous when you're on the stage. It's good. It puts you a bit on edge. So even if you've never done this before, that's absolutely normal. Just do it anyway.
So, Aslak, can you share with us perhaps your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
I've had so many worst IT career moments.
Anything stand out?
Well, it's something that most of them have in common.
Right.
And that's when you're in an environment where there's a lack of transparency and a lack of trust. Where, I recently worked a place where the business people didn't really speak to or respect the IT people, and they would throw unreasonable deadlines at them, and people would just work long hours and get demotivated, and eventually people would just get burnt out and leave. The first time I had this experience was when I was quite at the beginning of my career. We'd been working for a finance company, building some new. It doesn't matter. We were building some tools for people to manage their wealth portfolio, and this was before Agile. And we've been working on this thing for 6 months, and we were telling the project manager that, hey, we're never going to meet that deadline. And he never told the client. He just said, well, just work harder. And when the deadline came, nothing was working. And everybody started yelling at each other, and the project manager was sacked. I guess that was the only good part of that story. But it was just a really demotivating thing, right? And it all boiled down to lack of transparency and a lack of trust. And I think you will find that as a root cause of most terrible career moments in IT, and I'm sure other professions as well.
So communication is obviously a key part of that, isn't it? And obviously the other thing the project manager didn't do, presumably, was manage the expectation of the end client, and therefore it all came as a massive failure at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I had this experience several times, and it's actually what made me interested in the whole behavior-driven development movement, because it isn't just about testing; it is also about communication and transparency. It's got more to it than the purely technical aspects.
Okay, so moving away from your worst moment, can you perhaps tell us about your career highlight or greatest success?
I think actually that's what happened a month ago when we sold the company that we had spent 5 years building and growing. I think that is my IT career highlight. Of course, it remains to see how well that pans out, because we're only 1 month into it. But I'm pretty confident that it's going to be great for the company and for the open source community, because now we can spend more time building an evolving Cucumber, and also for customers and users, they'll have a better product. But yeah, I think that's my highlight for sure.
Sure. One thing we didn't discuss earlier, though, was obviously with this the sale and the acquisition. I presume you're continuing your involvement with Cucumber and with the development.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. Now I'm coding all day long. I don't have to do any of that business stuff anymore. I don't have to do sales. I don't have to do well, I do a bit of marketing, but that's sort of like the sort of marketing that goes with open source. I don't have to do finance. I don't have to travel. I can just focus on what I love and what I'm good at. And I think being happy at work is so important. It was great running a startup. Don't get me wrong, but it was also incredibly stressful. What I like about what's happened is that I can just spend more time with my family and not stress so much.
Okay, so Aslak, what excites you about the future of the industry and careers in IT?
To be honest, I'm not sure I'm that excited. I'm a little bit scared actually of the future. So I'm a programmer. I love to tinker and play with stuff, but I also worry about how software and IT is going to change the world. I worry about surveillance. I worry about AI.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of good things in AI, but there's also some. If this isn't handled properly by governments and the organisations behind it, it can also be quite a terrible thing. So I'm worried about that. Now, that wasn't really your question. What am I excited about? I guess if you like software development, I think being a software developer is going to be a pretty safe job choice. The computers aren't going to be writing code anytime soon. I think there's going to be a growing need for software developers. And at least that's exciting. And
yes,
but I don't really know what's going to happen. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Sure. Yeah, that's very true. Obviously, you made an interesting point about the use of technology as opposed to the sort of the advancement. So obviously, anything can be used for good purposes or bad purposes. So yeah, I suppose it's more about that, isn't it? And what are the controls that are going to be in place around it, particularly as you say, from sort of governments and so forth, and international boundaries and so forth. We're going to go into the reveal round now. We're going to find a little bit more about you and the way you think. You ready for this?
Yeah.
So what first attracted you to a career in IT?
The fact that I got a job. I studied in France. I'm from Norway originally. I studied in France. I was studying to become a mechanical engineer. And I failed my exams in the second year of my studies and had to do the whole second year again. And this is when the internet, the World Wide Web, sort of took off. It was back in 1993, 94, something like that. So I kind of just like stumbled upon it. And then I thought it was intriguing. And then I landed a job, even though I was completely unqualified and didn't have good marks. I landed a job in a big consultancy and was exposed to waterfall. That was horrible. Well, I didn't know there was any other way. So I guess I wasn't particularly attracted to IT. I sort of like just fell into it by accident in my studies. I did think it was going to change the world, though. I understood that much back in '92. This internet thing, that's really going to break down communication barriers and open up so many different commercial opportunities and so on. So I think it was the novelty about it that attracted me originally, I think.
And what is the best career advice you've ever received?
I think that is to get a mentor, somebody who's more experienced than you, somebody who is willing to spend some time with you regularly to give you advice on what you should do next. Because when you're new at something, you don't know what you don't know. Having somebody show you the right path or a path is an advice I got very early, and that's something that I've always tried to have.
I think it's a good thing. It doesn't really matter where you are in your career to have a mentor. There's always somebody who's far more experienced than you and can give you useful feedback and encouragement and help in your career as well.
Yeah.
if you were to begin your IT career again in today's world, what would you do?
I would learn functional programming languages. I did learn them at school, but I was never really exposed to them in my professional career. I played around with them, but it appears to me that there are so many things that are just better with functional programming than with traditional procedural programming. I would have studied that more and used it more in my work.
And I think I might know the answer to this, but I'll ask it. What career objectives are you currently focusing on?
I'm focusing on doing all of the exciting things that I've been wanting to do with Cucumber that I just haven't had the capacity to do. Well, we could go into details about features, but it's about taking Cucumber, which is a very popular tool, but has suffered a bit from lack of maintenance, to do what I've been wanting to do for 5 years.
Yes.
And now finally have time to do. And also, I must mention it. Since we joined Smart Bear, there's going to be a full-time team of 3 people working on it, which is unprecedented.
Yes, so. Indeed, yeah. And what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
Listening to other people.
Yes, very underrated.
And asking the right questions.
And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
I always try to learn new things, new techniques, new languages, new frameworks, new platforms, new databases. I'm particularly interested in something called CRDTs at the moment, convergent replicated data types or commutative replicated data types, which is the technology underpinning real-time collaboration on the internet. But yeah, to just learn, study. There's always something new to learn that's fun and that will evolve your career.
And what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
I have 2 young daughters, 3 and 6. So as you can imagine, that takes a chunk of my time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I play 5-a-side football. I love to cook. But yeah, I don't really have that much time. I'm going to see a concert today in Hyde Park.
Oh, right. That should be fun. The weather's good as well.
Yeah. Bob Dylan and Neil Young. That's going to be great. My family is just taking all of my time at the moment. We love to travel. We're an international family, American and Norwegian, living in England. So a lot of time going back and seeing family.
And Aslak, can you share a parting piece of career advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
When you go for lunch, go and invite somebody who you're not working with on a regular basis. Maybe somebody you're working with but that you don't know very well. Sit down and have lunch with them. Preferably somebody who isn't doing the same thing as you. So if you're a programmer, go and sit down with somebody who works in the product department and learn about what they care about and what they worry about. That will help you really understand the business that you're working for and make you a better programmer, because you can't be a good programmer or an IT person if you don't understand the problems and the domain of the business.
Yes, that's very good. Yep. And finally, what's the best way we can find out more about you and connect with you?
I have a Twitter account, Aslak _Hellesoy. I have a GitHub account as well, which is the same, but without the underscore.
Yep.
I sometimes go and speak at conferences, although I don't know how you find out which ones I speak to. I don't really have a maintained blog anymore because I just didn't have time. Twitter and GitHub is really probably the best place to follow what I'm doing.
Aslak, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
Thanks a lot, Phil. It's been an honor to be here, and thanks for having me.
A quick thank you again to my guest on today's show for sharing their career tips, advice and experiences. You'll find a show notes page for today's episode on the IT Career Energizer website, which will be itcareerenergizer.com/e and then the number of today's episode. Now that there are 3 new episodes of the show every week, make sure that you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss out. And don't forget to join the new IT Career Energizer community group in Facebook. If you're enjoying the podcast, it would be great to hear from you and to learn about your own career journey, your successes, opinions, and thoughts on the future of the industry. Thanks for supporting the show, and remember, if you're not growing your career, you're slowing your career.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.